give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning. Good morning, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, all over the world. Welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio, and you are in touch with the Compensatory Concept. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. Here in Columbus, Ohio, it is morning, so we're going to say good morning to all, and thank you for listening. On the line, live from Washington, D.C., is Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. He is the author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Somebody asked me, Mr. Bobby, what are you guys going to talk about today? And I replied that every week we talk about racism, white supremacy. And they said, well, don't you get tired of that? And I said, no, because it is an ongoing thing that we need to talk about. And Mr. Fuller has written this book, A Compensatory Counter-Racist Code, that he has written. And it is for a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which is white supremacy. Now, these are his thoughts, and he penned them down, and then he will answer your questions according to a compensatory code, which is to make up for, which he will also explain many times during this broadcast, 2-hour broadcast, and thank you for your support for that. We are on from 9 to 11. Okay. Now, this book that I am holding in my hand, you can get by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And for those of you who are new to the show, I will have later on in the program, Mr. Fuller, speak about the book and all the other pertinent information that you can get on the book. This is arguably 2 of the best hours in the work week that you could have. I personally think, but I don't have the documentation to prove it, that the program is one of the most listened to in Internet radio, at least according to the Gmails that I get. But without further ado, let me introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Mr. Fuller, how are you this morning?
I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Very, very good. One of the things that was brought to my attention was this word pimp. And one of the people that I was speaking to wanted me to ask you, what is your definition of a pimp, or could you give a compensatory definition of a pimp?
Well, I just use the traditional definitions, the way it's been handed down, and because I don't have compensatory definitions for every word, because I don't see a necessity for doing so. When I do see a necessity for doing so, then that's when I try to give a compensatory definition, a definition to make up for clarity in the definition of a word that I tend to think may cause more confusion than clarity. So a pimp is just a person who really, in the greater sense, is just someone who is exploiting someone in any manner. Any type of exploitation is pimping. Exploitation meaning you're taking advantage of a person's strength, and so that whatever effort they're putting forward to do anything, I mean, you siphon off of it. In other words, you take part of their effort without contributing anything. Mm-hmm. You just take. And so basically that would be what it is.
Okay.
Any type of exploitation. Slavery is a form of pimping.
Yes, sir.
Right. It just goes on and on and on. If you're taking advantage of somebody else's strength and efforts toward trying to accomplish something, mm-hmm. and you come and take advantage of it by taking from whatever they are doing and giving back nothing, that's not the compensatory way.
Yes.
Compensatory meaning you give and you take. I mean, you give and you receive, rather. Giving and receiving. Giving and receiving. That's the compensatory way.
Yes, sir. In my conversations this past week, or since we last spoke, that word again, pimping, came up, and in particular, or in regards to your work, the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept. It's been brought to my attention from the legal department and also from others how there are others who are, let me say this, suggested or could be pimping your work that you have put into, and I have been sent some documents and some sites where this has been going on, I think some cups, T-shirts, and so forth, people who are using some of your words or some of your phrases, but not compensating you for such an action like this. Now, I haven't gone on too many of the sites. I have seen some of the materials allegedly, supposedly put out by whoever these people are. It was brought to me that this was could be a form of pimping. Could you respond to that, since I don't think that you have authorized anybody to do anything like that? Could you speak to that?
Well, those who are making money, I mean, they, if that's what they're doing and doing it for, and saying that that's what they're doing it for, and then in a compensatory way, they should at least consult me if they are doing that in such a way that they're just making money, and it may be something, a method that they're using that I may not approve of, because they may be distorting the message too.
Yes, sir.
And I wouldn't want them to do that. And then, of course, if there's money being made, I would want such a person to tell me that they are making money, and that, and whether or not they think that they should share whatever money they are making. I have to charge for the book that I made, but I had to put forth an effort to make the books, and that's all that I do. And other than that, I don't accept donations or anything like that. So that's an arrangement. They should at least notify me of what they are doing, like I would notify a person if that's what I was doing.
Yes, sir.
If I was taking a product and using it for my financial gain, I would notify the person that I'm using your product for financial gain, and let's work something out. And that's all there is to that. Mm-hmm. Now, outside of that, people who use the material to spread the word, I mean, without thinking in terms of just, this is just a way for me to grind out some money and use it any kind of way that I see fit to do that. If a person is not doing that and just trying to spread the word to what is in the book and say that this came from Neely Fuller's book and whatnot, and go on television and talk about it. I mean, this came from Neely Fuller's book and whatnot.
Yes.
I mean, that's what I would do. I would, go on. I used to go on the speaking circuit and whatnot. I would quote Mark Twain. I didn't pay anything to Mark Twain's estate or anything like that for quoting Mark Twain. I would just say this is what Mark Twain said about this, that, and other.
Yes.
Now, I wouldn't, make a whole speech about Mark Twain's work and claim it as being my own or something like that. Whatever I would say about Mark Twain, or if whatever came from Mark Twain, or from Richard Wright, or from Alice Walker, I would say this came from a book by Mrs. Alice Walker.
Yes.
Miss Alice Walker or somebody.
Yes.
And that's it. And let's go on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what everything is all really about, spreading information.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that. You should do that.
Yes.
If it's constructive information.
Yes. There is a protocol that has to be followed, even journalistically, that you give I call it referential evidence to whatever point that you are making and who said it. If, in fact, you did not say this, then you give the quote or the saying or whoever it was from instead of using somebody else's material. I think you have a phrase called stand by your work.
Yes, everybody stands by his or her own work. I mean, if you did some work, then say, this is my work. And you say, if it's somebody else's work, you just say, that's somebody else's work.
Yes.
But I will point to it.
Yes.
I will point to that work as somebody else's work. That way you don't have the one thing you don't want, particularly in counter-racist science. You don't have confusion.
Yes, sir.
The white supremacists feed off of confusion.
Yes.
And confusion is absolutely destructive in any setting. You take any people who are confused about anything, and that's what the white supremacists do with the non-white people throughout the planet. First order of business, not just to brutalize them, but to confuse their minds in all areas of activity. Economics, education, entertainment. Get into their entertainment business and take that black person's mind and have it scattered all over the place so that whatever that black person is doing in the field of entertainment is going to cause destruction among non-white people. They're not going to support anything unless it does that. In the entertainment field, in the educational field, in the economic field, labor, law, politics for sure, religion for sure, sex for sure, and of course war, which all of it is. The white supremacists are exercising war against all non-white people everywhere on this planet, 24 hours a day, in every move that they make, even when it doesn't look like it's war, even when there are no sounds of gunfire or anything like that. It's still war, because when someone is mistreating you, mistreatment means war. That's what war is, mistreatment. Counter-war is trying to stop the mistreatment. So in all areas of activity, the white supremacists get up in the morning and go to bed at night, if they go to bed at all, because it seems like they work around the clock.
Yes, sir.
Trying to ruin non-white people in every area of activity all over the planet, 24/7. For what? In order to have for themselves glory, fun, and material gain.
Wow. Talktainment Radio is a 24/7, no-charge, worldwide broadcasting facility that have hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's one that I'd like to share with you. It is very familiar. It is our show. And let me just say this. How do we produce balance between people and establish a planet based on justice? Join host, Mr. Bobby, that's me, and nationally acclaimed author Neely Fuller, live from Washington, D.C., as we provide insight into the universal law of compensation and its role in the establishment of justice. Now, our show broadcasts on Wednesdays from 9 until 11, and we are exclusive on TalkTainmentRadio.com. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. The phone lines are now going to be open, and you may call by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Mr. Fuller, before we get to the Gmails and phone calls, is there a subject or something that caught your eye in the news that you would like to comment on?
Well, someone called me, or contacted me, rather, and said, say something about what's going on with black people and male-female interaction.
Okay.
And what should be going on and what shouldn't be going on. Now, some things immediately I had to say, and that is, for all black females everywhere, babies are yours. You're on your own in this system of white supremacy. Why? Because the white supremacists have decided that you're going to be on your own. If you're a black female anywhere on this planet and you have a baby, or you're planning on having a baby, looking forward to having a baby, by whomever, that baby is yours and nobody else's. And if the baby doesn't get total support from you, without you looking over your shoulder or looking around you and thinking that somebody's going to help you with that baby, don't rely on that. Think in terms of, if you are figuring on getting pregnant, or already have been, or you already have offspring, you have babies, think of raising those babies entirely on your own. Why? Because the white supremacists have made that decision that you are going to be on your own. They're not going to allow anybody to help you. I want to nail that down. This is the future. They are going to cut off anybody helping you if you are not helping that baby. If you are not completely devoted, putting everything aside, everything, boyfriends, fun, hanging out with your girlfriends, if you can't put all of that aside and concentrate on everything you can possibly do alone with that baby is in big trouble, and you don't have any business having any. You don't have any business having any, because you are not going to get any help if you haven't found that out already. The grandmother system is dying, period. It used to be that you could say, well, I'll drop the baby off to my grandmother's and then I'll go and look for my job. Or I'll take her, on my job. I have to spend a lot of time on my job, and that I already have. So I'll have to get some help from my grandmother to do some babysitting. The grandmother system is dying among black people. It used to be you could rely on grandma even when you couldn't rely on mother. I mean, get on a train and take the baby, 2, 3 babies maybe, down to the farm where Grandma Jackson is. But Grandma Jackson isn't there anymore. And grandmothers are also getting younger all the time. They have problems of their own. They're not in those little shacks by the tracks, particularly in the northwestern hemisphere like they used to be in the 1920s and 30s and 40s. That's disappeared quite a while ago. Many of them are seeking to be in, just finding a little turnaround space in a nursing home. They need help. They're not able to contribute like they used to by taking care of little Ronnie down there on a farm and have him just walk behind her while she picks berries. That's the old days.
Yes.
Little Sheila walking behind Grandma out there in the field while you're up north somewhere looking for your job or trying to get better placed in a better job. You could rely on that then. That's gone. That's not coming back either. The white supremacists have seen to it that it's not coming back. They have had the railroad companies come by and take all those little shacks away because usually they were by the railroad tracks. I used to call them a sort of like a little social security net, shack by the track with the room in the back. They don't exist anymore. That used to be a safety net for a lot of black people, where you could say, oh, boy, winter's coming, and I'm here in Chicago, and everything is ruthless up here, and the job situation is terrible, and you got those two children. You get on that Chicken Bone Express, make a beeline for the South, and Grandma and Cousin Jake, and Willie down the road, and Clemmy, across the road. They would all meet you at the bus station or the train station. It was almost like hallelujah time. And they would say, oh, yeah, that's the new baby? Oh, yes, all right, bring it on. Yeah, oh, wow. Oh, you okay? Yeah, she can stay at my house. That's gone. It's not there. It's not coming back. Ladies, you're on your own. Be serious about that. Make plans in advance and think about, can I do it all alone? That's the main message I'm trying to put out there. Because the way the white supremacist system is working now, that's what they have planned for you. They've been doing it since the 1960s in earnest. They say, what we're going to do, we're going to undermine black people in such a way that they're going to be fighting each other all the time. They're not going to be out here talking about getting rid of racism and all like that. They're not going to have time for that. They're not going to have breathing space.
Yes.
We're not going to give them breathing space. The little apartments that we allow them to have and all like that are going to get smaller and smaller and are unavailable altogether. Many of them are going to be walking the streets in the snow with their babies in their arms looking for a place to stay.
Yes,
no more little shacks by the track with the room in the back, and no more apartments in the cities. You got 3 babies, you are destitute. That's what the plans are. So you got to make plans to counteract that.
Yes, as witnessed and the report from the news yesterday on NBC about the 500 murders this year already in the city of Chicago. 1-877-932-9766 is the number that you can go to, and we're going to take a call. Line number 1. What is your call for Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., according to the compensatory code?
All right, good morning, Mr. Fuller and Mr. Bobby. All right, I have a question, Mr. Fuller, for some clarity on black folks being children. Let's say a white man works in a company. He's dependent upon white folks for his income. Is that white person a child, as opposed to a black man, say such as yourself, who has his own business? Can you compare? Can you go into detail on that?
Oh, you still have white supremacy. White supremacy doesn't mean that white people don't depend on white people. White people do depend on white people. Everybody depends on white people all over the world. Black people are falling, their children and and their whole families are falling into the oceans. Looking for what? Which way did the white people go? As we speak right now, all over the world, people with dark skins, with their babies in their arms, going across deserts, walking for many hundreds of miles, trying to talk to this person, talk to that person. And when they talk, what are they saying? They're asking a question. What is that question? Basically, in their own languages, but not explicitly, they don't use these terms, but that's what it means. Which way did the white people go? Why? Because that's where everything is that's worth anything. Anywhere you find dark-skinned people, you don't find anything that's worth anything. You better start looking for which way did the white people go if you're going to get anything that's worth having, because they have seen to it that the people of color don't have anything wherever they are. And that is a growing phenomenon. I mean, you can't have nothing where you are. They're going to see to it. You say, well, I got a river in front of me, and it's full of fish, and everybody in my village, they make a living, from fishing, and from also the land that is around the river is fertile land. And so I know how to farm, so I'm out here farming. What is that fellow talking about? All right, here's what the white supremacists are doing. And there are people who can testify to that. They're drying up that river. They'll build a dam 500 miles upstream and cut off that river. Or, if they don't build a dam, they will pollute the water. All of a sudden, you got a lot of sewage. You got a lot of trash in your water. It's killing the fish, and it's killing the land around what had been the river. That is now just something that's just a bunch of heaps of garbage. It's coming from everywhere, nowhere, anywhere. And now you got to do what? Move. And when you move, you ask a question. Where am I going to move? And somebody will tell you, find out where the white people are, because that's where you're going to have to go and work for wages and take all your families and all of your tribe with you, because they're going to be dependent on whatever in some refugee camp that the white supremacists allow you to have. See, you can't deny that we are in a world that's run by the system of white supremacy. That's what it is, racism. It dominates everything that non-white people do. And as long as we are trying to run from it, trying to figure out a scheme to squirm around it, it's not going to happen. It's becoming more powerful and more insidious by the moment.
All righty. Was there another question before we go, sir?
I got the new book last night.
Oh, good.
I want to thank Mr. Fuller. But the way it arrived was pretty strange, and it's better. I'll email you, Mr. Bobby, on that, and hopefully you can share it with Mr. Fuller.
Okay. Well, thank you for your call, caller.
Thank you.
All righty. Thank you. All righty. You may get in contact with the show by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7, the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby at gmail.com, and I will try and get your emails on. I doubt if I'll get it on today, but I will get them on. Anyway, TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go, and you can check us out on WCRS-FM 98.3 Wednesday and Sunday evenings. Blogs and podcasts are available. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. Brother Renzo, we got you coming up next on the Gmail, and then more of Mr. Neely Fuller and your questions. All that and more coming up next on TalkTainmentRadio.com. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we've been on topic this morning on black-female interaction, and Mr. Fuller will discuss that even more, and I might have him even discuss the term he used, shack by the track. Anyway, if you'd like to get in contact with the show, you may do so by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, at gmail.com. Mr. Fuller, before we go to Renzo's question, Could you speak a little bit about your book, where we can get it, and the latest information?
You can go to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And the website has been set up in a way where you can get all of the information that you need now, I would think in an improved way over what had been a few months ago, hopefully. And you will get most of your questions answered about what the book is about, and something a little more about the details about what the book is about. The United Independent Compensatory Counter-Racist Code, or the United Independent Compensatory Counter-Racist Code System concept. The book has a basic title, which is the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept, which is explained in the book. Those words wouldn't mean anything. And a complementary title to the basic title is also a compensatory counter-racist code. It's about how an individual person, what an individual person can do. We just don't want to keep talking about what the problem is. Many people are aware that we do have a problem with racism planet-wide, but there wasn't anything that I could find many years ago that told the individual person what he or she could do on a daily basis about the racism and its effects on the people of color. So I tried to write something in a codified manner. Codified doesn't mean a secret code. It's not a secret. It's available to everybody, to read and take whatever they see fit out of it to use to solve his or her individual problems if that person is a person of color, perceives himself or herself to be a victim of racism. But you can get the book, the basic book, and also an additional book called a Counter-Racist Word Guide by going to producejustice.com.
All righty. Let's go to Renzo's question. He says, Mr. Fuller, how are you logically able to say that white supremacy has been around since the beginning of recorded history if there were recorded times when Europeans weren't in Africa? For example, 1280 to 1337 AD, Mansa Musa was the richest recorded person in the world. Where was white supremacy during his reign?
Oh, I really don't know. I just take bits and pieces from different people who say that they do know. But I don't know how far back. I don't know sometimes many people have asked me that. I've asked myself that. Who was the absolute first person? The very first person, because it had to start in a person's mind. I mean, what village or what area of the world, what person that classified himself or herself, could have been a she, as white, and said that this is supposed to have significant value over anybody who they perceive to be not white. Who was the first person that had that idea? That idea had a genesis, had a beginning. What was the name of that person? What was the location of that person? What was the gender of that person? It could have been a female. It might have been a male. It might have been a male and a female together that came up with the idea simultaneously, which is highly unlikely because usually an idea or anything usually comes up in the mind of one person. First of all, and then they pass it on to person number 2, then to person number 3, and it spreads. But usually it starts with one person. I have no idea of who that person could be. But every now and then, down through the years, people have said that they know who it was for sure, and then they will say that it happened 2, 3, 6, 800 years ago, a couple of thousand years ago, and then it becomes what? Confusing, because many people say that they know. They know the exact person and the exact moment, and they know that for sure, even though they will readily admit that they were not here themselves. So they got their information from someone else, someone who wrote a book, or someone who wrote a book before that person wrote the book, because one person will say, well, it goes back 600 years. That's what I've heard. 400 years in the northwestern hemisphere, but 600 years worldwide. Then other people have said, oh, no, you're talking about at least 2,000 years at the minimum, and maybe a little bit before then. So this is what I've heard down through the years. So I don't know. I always say I don't know when it began. I don't know that exact person at that exact moment sitting in a canoe or sitting on a riverbank or sitting in a mud hut or a cave came up with the idea of racism. I don't know the name of that person or the address.
Okay, there you go, Renzo. Your question there answered by Mr. Fuller. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go, and you can download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Our topic today is black male-female interaction. And if you have a question about that, or you can go off topic, you can by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Let's go to the Gmails, and this is from George. He says this, Mr. Fuller, I think the only practical way for blacks to survive white supremacy is going to be for us to pit whites against each other like in Sun Tzu's Art of War. They will crumble from within if we get out of their way. They were doing that to themselves in Europe before the Moors showed them how to build ships, and now they project their hatred onto other colors. I wish we had not done assisting them, but you live and learn. Anyway, whites still have no chance long term. They love to have sex with other races, so they eliminate themselves, plus their birth rate numbers are plummeting because they love to spend money more than raising family. The question then, Mr. Fuller, becomes, can they be genetically neutralized or annihilated before they destroy us? Only God knows. Still learning, George from Wesley Chapel, Florida. Mr. Fuller?
Well, my answer is I don't know, because I haven't even thought about it in that context. And it's not anything that I would recommend. I'm not talking about having total war and you know, on an ongoing basis forever until one or the other of the people of this planet are annihilated, or just be in a state of nobody being annihilated, but everybody in a state of total war forever, that white people and non-white people going at each other's throats forever. I don't have that in mind at all. I say that we should all be universal people, white and non-white, making the best use of this wonderful universe that we have all been given, like it should have been in the first place, with all this, and completely eliminate all this squabbling. In other words, at a certain point, have some type of truce, and then actually have peace. Move from a truce to peace between all people, white and non-white, male and female, who are constantly battling each other. Everybody battling. This is the whole world of nothing but perpetual war the way it is now. And the white supremacists are the greatest force for keeping that type thing going. Why? Because that's what racism is all about. It's war, endless war. It's endless mistreatment of people. War is nothing but mistreatment. Anytime you're having a war, you're mistreating someone. Somebody's being mistreated. The racists like that. And they're the most powerful and the smartest people on the planet in this part of history.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could, even in eliminating racism, you would still have people in conflict with each other. What we want to do is, right in one sweep, eliminate all these animosities, all of this gang banging, all of this tribalism, where people fight each other about nothing. Because when you're really in what you call the tribal wars, or even when white people fight each other, they usually, after several years, wind up shaking hands. Well, they could have done that in the beginning. I mean, it's a bunch of nonsense. This endless fighting, glorifying fighting. Stop glorifying people who fight. That's a big start. But non-white people have been taught by the white supremacists, like it was mentioned on this program just a few minutes ago. What's going on in Chicago? Black people hunting each other down with one thing in mind. Bang, 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 bang. Fall down, you're dead. I'm going to kill you, and then I'm going to run down the street and hide, and try to keep anybody from finding out that I did it. And then I'm going to load up and peep out the window and then go out there and sneak up on somebody and bang, 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 and then go and hide again and peep out from behind the curtain until the street's clear, and then go back out there again and bang, 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 bang. Now, what type of world does that need to be? What does that actually produce? What is that to be proud of? That's not the way people should be. But the white supremacists have glorified this in non-white people, AK-47s all over what we call so-called Africa. Not a plow to be seen, not a railroad anywhere, not a paved highway in many places, many places, too many places, but plenty of AK-47s and people walking around with AK-47 rifles, very expensive rifles, bandoliers of ammunition over the shoulders of a 16-year-old, and you look down at his feet, and he has no shoes, but he's got an expensive rifle. That means what? The white supremacists at work. That's what that means. Doesn't have anything, clean drinking water, but he got a rifle to kill his neighbors. Go down the road 20 miles away and kill a member of that other tribe. Why? Because they are a member of the other tribe. That's all. No other reason. No reason for conflict. No reason for fighting and killing. But somebody said, that ain't a member of my tribe, so go kill him. For what? What are you going to get out of it? Where's the payday? Well, he's dead. So he's dead, and you're breathing. Now what? Well, try to find a member of another tribe and see to it that they're dead too. Well, what are you going to get out of that? Well, I get the sound of my rifle. Bang, bang, bang. Fall down, you're dead. And I'm breathing. Hooray for me. And this is all that it is. And more than any other people on the planet, the white supremacists, truth be told, I'm not making something up about them. Truth be told, they are promoting that more than anybody. The smartest and most powerful people on this planet are promoting that type of nonsense everywhere. And we need to be aware of it and counteract it.
Yes,
because
sir.
that's our duty.
That's our duty. 1-877-932-9766 is the number if you'd like to get in contact with the show. The topic has been black male-female interaction. But you can go off topic, and also you can Gmail me at 7MrBobby, the numeral 7MrBobby@gmail.com. Let's go to this one, Mr. Fuller, on the Gmail. She says, Mr. Fuller, I have a dilemma and would like some input from you, Mr. Fuller. I'm in a relationship, and I've been for about 7 years. So we are in business together as well. We are in constant conflict because I feel he doesn't treat me as an individual in the business or in the relationship. Everything that goes wrong is usually my fault, according to him. I really don't talk to other people, including my family, about our relationship, so it's tough to deal with it by myself. He usually talks down to me or very loudly, although I have expressed several times it angers me. He continues, it wasn't always like this. I want our business to work and continue to flourish, but it's very hard working with someone that offends you weekly. We are from different backgrounds, but we are both people of color. Mr. Fuller, what can I do or say to make him realize that we are in this together and we should really work together and not offend me and expect me to work alongside him just the same? Thank you, Mr. Fuller, and I'll be waiting for your answer.
All victims of racism are equal. We are all prisoners of war. It's not like we're in the process of being in captivity. We were in captivity when we were born. We were born in prison. The entire planet is a prison for anybody classified as non-white. A prison built by whom? By the white supremacists. That's what white supremacy means. That's what that supreme means. They're the first and last word in everything, all areas of activity when it comes to people of color. So that automatically means that people of color are all equal. None can talk down to the other. I can't talk down to any other, what you call talking down to, whatever that means, another non-white person and tell them they don't know this, they don't know that, they are not entitled to this. I'm not in charge of anything. Why? Because people who are hostile to me are in charge of me and in charge of them. So prisoners of war are all equal. If you are a person of color, you are a prisoner of war, and you should act like it. You should understand that, because you have to understand that you are in the white supremacist prison, which is the entire planet. The entire planet is a prison if you are a person who has color in his or her skin. So you should recognize that. And one is not the boss over another. One non-white person is really not the boss. We all have a boss, and that boss is the white supremacist, racist man and racist woman. They are the bosses of all non-white people on this planet in every area of activity 24/7, regardless of where you are. Now, having realized that, or we should realize that, then as prisoners of war, we try to cooperate with each other. One cannot boss the other. You just cooperate with each other, like prisoners in a cell. Two prisoners in a cell. One male, one female. I mean, you're prisoners. You cooperate with each other in that small cell that you're allowed to have by the white supremacists. In that business you're allowed to have. They allow you to have that business. You're not in charge of anything. They are in charge of you. You are only reason you're in business on this planet, if you're a person of color, is that the white supremacists say you can be in business. So you have to answer to them. Now, you can squabble among yourselves all you want to, but you answer to them. And you can be out of business anytime they say so. They just come there and say, hey, I'm rezoning this place, and you're out. Be out of here by next month. That's it. No talking back. I mean, you're gone. And then what are you going to do? Stand out there in the middle of the street, arguing with each other? You're not in control of anything. So cooperate with each other as equals. So no such thing as a black male, for instance, being a husband to anybody, ever, as long as the system of white supremacy is the supreme order of business on this planet.
Why did you say that, Mr. Fuller?
Because you can't be a husband and be subject to a warden. You can't be a prisoner of war and be anybody's husband. You've lost that. You're disqualified as a husband. You don't have any power. You're a prisoner. You can't say, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go there and do this and do that. You got to get permission, if you're a person of color, from somebody white. That's what racism is. So you can't be a victim of racism and be a husband or be a wife. You're just equal prisoners, that's all. Prisoner is your designation. That's your title. You're not a husband. You're not a wife. You're not a family. You're prisoners of war. And so far, you have lost the war. Your ancestors lost it before you were born, so you were born in prison. This is the only way to look at it if you're going to be truthful. Now, those who say, Fuller, that ain't so, I ain't paying no attention to that nonsense you're talking. Well, I always say, don't believe anything that Neely Fuller says. But when you start walking around on this planet long enough, you begin to figure two and two together that something is out of order. There's a lot of things that you can't do, and it doesn't have anything to do with what Neely Fuller said. It had to do with what you're going to experience yourself if you pay attention. Are you really in charge, or is somebody in charge of you? And who is that somebody that's in charge of you? Who are these persons that tell you what to do and you got to do it?
So would you say that Mr. Colin Kaepernick's opinion and stance that he took in setting down for the so-called national anthem, or even taking a knee, and there are others that are following suit by him taking a knee, and they're still talking about it 2 weeks from now, what was that?
Oh, well, I don't know all the details of that, but I do know something about anthems and flags. First of all, according to what I've written, there's one pledge that you can take to a flag, if we're talking about flags, or anthems. You can stand, or you can sit, and you can just simply say, this is what I do when the anthem is played. I mean, what obligation should you have, logically speaking?
Logically speaking.
Yes.
We're going to have to get to that on the other side. TalkTameItRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for the second hour of the compensatory concept here exclusively on TalkTameItRadio.com. Oh, good morning and welcome to the second hour of the compensatory concept on TalkTameItRadio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. You are in touch with the compensatory concept, and I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is Radio the Way It Should Be Heard. On the line live from Washington, D.C., is Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., the author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a compensatory counter-racist code. As a matter of fact, I have the revised, expanded edition in my hand. It is simply a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which is white supremacy. There's also a compensatory counter-racist codified word guide, and as Mr. Fuller stated earlier in this broadcast, that not every word is in there. For example, we start off today's show speaking about pimping. That word is not in the counter-racist code guide, and Mr. Fuller said not every word is in there, but there are many words that are in there to help you understand the white racism or white supremacy. You can get this book by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com, and you can get that and also the word guide, 2 separate fees for that. Before we go on, our topic has been and will be today black male and female interaction. Mr. Fuller explained that, and he will explain that again in the second hour. But before we go in, I just got this report in just now from, from Bipartisan Report. Michigan Governor Rick Snyder has been hit with a federal RICO lawsuit for the Flint water disaster. The water crisis in Flint, Michigan has already cost thousands of residents sleepless nights and endless visits to the doctors as they see about their poisoned children, and proven yet again that too often in this country people cannot trust their elected representatives to do what is in the public interest. Mr. Fuller, with that being said, and the RICO laws, I'm not familiar with that yet, but I'm going to be familiar with that. To the best of your knowledge, what does that mean?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, you would say that, I would say, without naming any names, because the code does not allow me to steer in that direction, to avoid naming the names of specific people in the system of white supremacy. But I can always say that we are in one world government, and that's called the system of white supremacy. It's already in place. It was in place before I was born, according to all the information I've been able to receive. So therefore, what is the system of white supremacy? It will see to it that wherever non-white people are, that things are happening that shouldn't happen. And that includes the poisoning of water, the poisoning of land, radon or something up under your house. I mean, or some type of disease coming through, Zika, Ebola, or malaria, or something. Something is going to happen that shouldn't happen. That's the way it's supposed to be. If you are a person of color in the system of white supremacy, you are supposed to experience misery. That's what it's really all about. Make these people miserable. Why? For my enjoyment. That's why. I'm a white supremacist. I enjoy making people miserable. People of color. It gives me a reason for being. It makes me a hero in my own eyes. And I teach it to my children that this is the way to go. You got to be doing something while you're here on this planet. So poison their water and watch them die. And they don't know why they're dying until you tell them, because they're not going to find out. They're too ignorant, because we've seen to it that they're ignorant. So we can do all kinds of things to them without even telling them. But we like to do it and then tell them what we did, because then they can feel sorry for themselves and then get angry. And since they're not big enough to whip me, they'll turn on each other, and then I'll enjoy that. We got it all figured out. This is what our lives are all about. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what white supremacy is all about. Enjoyment. Enjoyment. Enjoyment based on what? On making people of color miserable.
Enjoying mistreating people.
Yes, enjoy mistreating people.
Wow.
And teach them to mistreat each other and then enjoy that. But see to it that it's all about mistreatment. Never about peace and justice and a wonderful world, as Louis Armstrong would sing about. No, none of that. We can give that some lip service, but if we are not making war, I mean, what's the point in breathing? So make war on these people of color. There's so many of them, and some of them might, get away with, escape our suffering. We can't allow that. We have to inflict suffering on them in order to do what? In order to feel good. Everybody likes to feel good, and that's what we get our high off of. And we teach it to them and have them slaughtering each other so that they can get high, killing each other. Just see to it that they don't bother us.
Wow. 1-877-932-9766 is the number that you can call to get in contact with the show, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, MrBobby@gmail.com. Let's go to the Gmails. Let's see. This is from Victor. He says this, Mr. Neely Fuller, what can white people do to replace racism with justice? My suggestions are these. Number one, educate, persuade, and by force replace racism with justice. And number two, remove the white people who are in power, who practice the religion of racism, and who believe in the system of white supremacy. What do you think, Mr. Fuller?
Well, any suggestion that a non-white person makes about his or her condition comes under VGQ, Victims Guaranteed Qualification. Any victim of racism anywhere on the planet can come up with any suggestion or any plan that he or she wishes to make to eliminate the misery that they are experiencing. If you're not entitled to that, you're not entitled to anything. So you're qualified to make any suggestion and to act on your suggestion just by being a victim. You don't have to get anybody's permission. You don't have to look over anybody's shoulder, and try to, figure out whether or not they will approve or disapprove of what you come up with. Just go with it if you think it will work. I have a book of suggestions, and that's my book of suggestions. But in that book itself, it says, if you're classified as non-white, which means you're subject to the system of white supremacy, anything that you say or suggest about race, racism, or counter-racism is not to be contested by any other victim of racism. Why? VGQ. You are qualified to have your own viewpoint. If you don't have that, what do you have? You have nothing. You don't even exist, in a way of speaking. You've got to have that qualification. Every victim is qualified, whether anybody agrees or not, whether everybody in the planet, white and non-white, would disagree with your suggestion. You stick with your suggestion if that's what you wish to do. Why? Because you are guaranteed that qualification. Mm-hmm. Guaranteed by whom? Based on what? Based on logic. That's what.
Okay. Let's do this. Talktainment Radio is a 24/7, no-charge, worldwide broadcasting facility that have hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's one that I'd like to share with you, and it's called A Conversation with Don Karima. Dr. Don Karima, Cherokee Creek Indian, or Native American, hosts this exciting Native American talk show, a radio talk show that features inspiring conversation with outstanding Native American achievers. This program features lively, insightful discussions with fascinating Native American artists, authors, musicians, educators, media professionals, creators, and thinkers. Now, this broadcast on Mondays, and it is exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host of The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. The on-topic subject today has been black male and female interaction, but you can go off-topic if you'd like, if you have a question. 1-877-932-9766 is the number that you can call to get into the contact with the show, or 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Let's go to the Gmails. It says, this is from Chike. It says, Mr. Fuller, I have never heard you laugh. Is humor non-constructive?
Oh, humor, it depends on what's humorous to you. If it has a constructive effect, for sure, you can laugh all the time if the effect is going to be constructive, if it's going to solve a problem, to help to solve a problem, for sure. That's just a label. Humor? What is humor? I mean, must have something to do with being humane. So I don't see anything incorrect about that. It's all about problem solving. That's what I have concluded. I could be in error, that we are put here for. And how did I come to that conclusion? Because we have problems. So what problems are we supposed to be solving? Those that are right in front of us every day. Solve them in the best possible manner. We're given hands, eyes, ears, feet, legs, toes, and a brain. And that brain is supposed to be used. Used for what? Well, logically speaking, constructively speaking, to solve problems. And you start with the, logically speaking, the biggest problem. That's why I say, what is the biggest problem on the planet among people? What is the biggest problem? And after sorting through it, I said the biggest problem is racism, because you can't solve any other problems without solving the problem of racism. That's been my observation, and that's the conclusion I came to.
Okay.
That conclusion could be an error.
Okay.
But I don't think so.
Okay. He also says, Mr. Fuller, do you think people want to hear you explain answers verbally rather than read your books?
Yes, because black people are sort of verbal people. There's an old saying, if you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yes. Now, I don't know if that's true or false. I mean, because I used to just, every book that I could get my hands on as a teenager, I don't care what kind of book it was. If it was a book, I wanted to look and see what's in it. And that was just me. And so I think that's an individual thing. That's an old cliche.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably pertains to a lot of people. But generally speaking, people really kind of like to interact with each other in a social way. People are very social. Maybe all people are very social. Maybe people prefer to interact with each other rather than to interact through some printed words. I mean, because the words really don't care how you react to the words that are printed. But people do react to what other people say. And so I think people, generally speaking, kind of like to interact with each other. But sometimes you just might have to look at a book to get clarity, because the book doesn't really care. So if you look at the book, then if you want to disagree with the book is not going to talk back and disagree with your disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
The book is just what it is.
Yes, sir.
And I think that sometimes black people like to argue. That's another thing. And particularly, they like to argue, barbershop arguments and all like that, with each other. Because then it makes the person feel better, you might say, or get a little high from winning the argument. But a book is kind of like, it's just there. And you look at it, and you say, now, I read that. Now, I don't want to believe that. Or I don't want to go along with that. Mm-hmm. But the book is not going to argue with you about it. Those words are going to be there.
Yes. Is winning that argument in the barbershop or the beauty salon, is that constructive?
Well, many people think that if you walk out of the barbershop or the beauty salon and you won all the arguments, that somehow has solved your problems. And black people, particularly, we've been beaten down so much that any kind of little victory, I mean, makes us feel better about ourselves as prisoners of war. But it really hasn't solved our problem.
Okay.
Winning an argument with other black people won't get you a whole lot on this planet.
Okay.
In the system of white supremacy, if you are a person of color.
Okay. Let's go to the phone lines. Line number 1, what is your question for Neely Fuller according to the compensatory code? Go ahead.
Yes, can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby. Calling from Virginia, and I have a question for Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir.
In the code book, Mr. Fuller specifically states that non-white people are extremely simple in their thinking and what they do and in their behaviors and interactions with other non-white people. And then also in the next paragraph down, he talks about that the white supremacists are extremely smart and they are not simple in our thinking. I just want Mr. Fuller to kind of talk about a little bit and how what are different things that we can do as non-white people to make ourselves more constructive and to put ourselves in a better position, because a lot of the activities, just based upon the observations that I see, we just have a lot of non-constructive behavior, and it really doesn't seem like we're taking this problem of white supremacy very seriously, if that makes sense.
So what is your basic question then?
Mr. Fuller, just to give our audience and viewers some examples of constructive ideas and things that we can do on a daily basis to make ourselves more serious in combating the problem of white supremacy.
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
Well, a number of suggestions. I mean, page after page after page after page in all 9 areas of activity are in the compensatory counter-racist code book that I have written, the one that you can get by going to producejustice.com. But the first order of business, the blanket order, is don't make any contact with anybody willfully and deliberately. Will you willfully and deliberately make contact with anybody on your cell phone or anything else, unless you have something constructive to say in mind? Even your words, choose your words carefully. I mean, get rid of the profanity. That's not constructive. You don't need that. Throw all that out of your conversation, period. You don't need that because it doesn't have a constructive effect. I mean, it might have a non-constructive effect. That's what you want to do, but you shouldn't want to do that. And be in the mode of problem solving.
Right.
So now, that's going to be painful to millions of black people, particularly in the Northwestern Hemisphere, because we're so used to talking what we call, we even have a name for it, and that has been passed down through the generations, talking trash. That's what we call it, trash talk. Trashy, just to make it just as trashy as it can get. I mean, if it's not trashy, it's not fun. It's not even living if it's not trashy. But we need to get rid of that. We're not used to it, but this is the way out of this. In fact, it will frighten the white supremacists. If you want to frighten them, you can frighten them more than any other way by being a person who says, from now on, starting with this moment, when I talk to someone or when I seek someone out to talk to, it's going to be all about constructive activity. Nothing that is non-constructive is going to come from me, and I'm not going to hang around people who are doing non-constructive talk. If I listen to them and I'm not hearing anything that will be of constructive value, that will help to have constructive results, then I'm going to politely dismiss myself from the conversation and go among people who are talking something. about something that's constructive. Everything constructive. Nothing that is non-constructive.
And can I ask one more question?
From this moment on, if every non-white person on the planet would do that right this minute, the white supremacists would be in serious trouble because they would practically be out of business.
Go ahead, caller.
Okay, and Mr. Fuller, based upon the statements you just made, and I listen to a lot, and I read the code book frequently, that's actually what you mean by black people almost changing the way and how we behave and doing something that the planet has never seen before, in which I remember you said that we are a problem-solving people as opposed to all the non-constructive things that we're known for doing. Would you agree with that?
Yes, if we become known to be, you talk about the black people that we used to make jokes about, and buffoons and carrying on foolishness and worshiping foolishness and whatnot. Oh, no, that's the way they were a few years ago.
That's right.
No, they have completely changed. They are known as the world's problem solvers. They are no longer known as the famous world problem makers. They are about, 24/7. I mean, they are just looking for ways to solve problems all the time in the most constructive manner with the most constructive results. That's how they think. That's how they act. I mean, that's just a part of them. It has been the new black culture, problem solving, nothing else, and having fun doing it. They're having fun doing it. They're not taking away the fun. I mean, it's just a joyous thing. I mean, solve one problem right after another, and don't engage in anything that's not about problem solving in all areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Yeah, solving problems through sex, having the correct type of sex that's beneficial to everybody and joyous. I mean, not going to have some ugly results like it does now. All right? Now, just think of that, a whole new world, and we can do it in just starting right this minute. All we have to do is just get in that frame of mind. Nothing non-constructive from now on. No non-constructive conversation. No got to have a whole bunch of swear words in everything that we say, thinking that that's somehow accomplishing something. I mean, just get rid of that childish nonsense. Because it is childish. It's infantile. And it's stupid. I mean, just glorifying stupidity. Stupidity is stupidity. So you glorify it.
Yeah.
But we have been taught to glorify anything that makes no sense at all. If it makes no sense, call the black people because they love it.
Wow.
Just go down and get a crowd of black people and say, we got a bunch of nonsense going on over here. And I know that you all have been trained to be a part of anything that makes no sense at all. Wow. And turn and put that on a loudspeaker, and the black people look around. Oh, nonsense? You got nonsense going on down the block? Let's get down there right quick before it goes away. We got to get a piece of that action.
Yeah. Wow.
Something that doesn't make sense. Oh, boy, we got to have, because we black folks, that's what we're about. Anything that's stupid, that's us.
All right. Thank you, caller, for your
call.
No,
thank you, Mr. Bobby, and we appreciate you out here, and you're doing a great job. We appreciate Mr. Fuller as well.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Fuller, you mentioned in the first hour this term, and we're going to bring it back up for the second hour. It's simply called the shack by the track. Personally, I've never heard of that, and I'm pretty sure that some of our listeners haven't. Could you explain what that term means or meant, or what can we learn about that?
A place of refuge. There's an old saying, where is home? Home is a place where when you go there, you know you're not going to be turned away. And somebody else made that up many years ago because that's a universal question. Where is home? H-O-M-E. Where is home? Anybody's home. Where is it? Home for a bird. Home for a bee. Home for a hornet. Home for an elephant. Home for a person. Where is it? Where is that place called home? People seem to be kind of oriented. I mean, everybody, likes to think of, usually when the sun is going down, they have a place to go. And somebody said some years ago, what is home? Home is that one place, maybe just one, might be two, but home is any place that you know for certain that when you go there, you won't be turned away. The door will be open. The bed with that quilt back there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the shack by the track with the room in the back. Where you knock on the door and you say, Aunt Hagee, this is me, Jack, your nephew, or Sheila, or Kamina. Knock on that door. And Aunt, or Grandma Green, or somebody, opens the door.
Mm-hmm.
And says, oh, child, come on in. Where have you been? I got your letter. I heard from so-and-so, and he said you were so-and-so and so-and-so, and we were just talking about you the other day. Your bed is made up just like you left it, back there in that back room. Everything is back there just like you left it. And you always got a home as long as I got mine. That's that shack by the track with the room in the back. When those cold winter days hit in the big city, and all of your girlfriends, in the case of a female, have turned their backs on you, you thought that when you had that baby, that they were going to come around and admire your baby and do all that babysitting because they are your friends, all right? But now, all of a sudden, you can't find them because you got a baby now, and they are still partying. And they're saying, hey, don't bring your baby over here to me. What do you think? Well, I thought you were my friend, and you could keep her for a few hours until I go and make out that application for the job. No, don't drop that baby over here. You crazy girl? Get out of here.
Shack.
See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
But that shack by the track with the room in the back.
Okay.
That's what you would like to have.
Okay.
But it ain't there no more.
TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go, and you can check us out on WCRS-FM 98.3. Wednesday and Sunday evenings. Blogs and podcasts are available. TalkTainmentRadio.com, we go where you go. And you can download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. We've been on the topic today of black male-female interaction. And not spelled with an E, Mr. Bobby, but anyway, interaction. But you can go off topic with any question that you would like to ask Mr. Fuller, and you can do so by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com, and we've gone through a few of them. But right now we do have a call on line number 1. Go ahead, caller. What is your question for Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. according to the compensatory code?
Yes, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller, how are you today, first of all?
Go ahead, sir. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. Look, with this situation in Chicago, this is what I want to talk about. And then, I don't understand why our president or state officials or Chicago, now obviously this is the way white supremacy runs. Those people only killing each other, so why would they go in there and stop it? Now look, the citizens, other black people, don't be surprised if the people end up having to go in there and stop all this nonsense. They're up to, 500 deaths this year, and over the Labor Day, there were how many,
yes, I
15
heard that,
or so?
I heard that report, yes.
Yeah, what is President Obama to forget about Chicago City? He's going to have to, if the governor's not sending National Guard in to assist him, or the president's not federalizing somebody? What is the answer? Don't be surprised if the citizens have to get deputized and go in there and straighten up. This is a lot of nonsense. Now, we know, sir, white people can kill. Whites kill each other, too, but we're talking about blacks right now. And this is getting out of hand there.
Okay. Mr. Fuller, you want to respond to that?
Well, for one thing, it's not much can be done about that except the non-white people, the black people themselves, listening to programs, I hope, like this, to say, well, hey, we don't need anybody to come in here and stop us from doing anything. Let's just stop doing it. You know, at some point we have to make up our minds. It's black people who are overseas who are doing this. I mean, you know, running up and down from village to village. Look at Rwanda back in the 1990s. 800,000 people in just a few weeks slaughtered each other. All black people. With machetes, mostly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not with modern pistols, 9mm, and 44s and magnums and whatnot. No, just going from house to house, I mean, chopping each other up with machetes. 800,000. And the white supremacists sitting back laughing at them all right? And finally had to come in and clean up the mess, which is what they usually do. See, they sit back and wait until it reaches the quota of dead people. Then they come in because the people themselves say, hey, we can't take no more of this killing each other. Well, I mean, we just killed each other so much. Ain't nobody working. Can't nobody come out of their village. Can't nobody go nowhere and whatnot. Nobody's working. I mean, just a whole lot of death. We got bodies all up and down the roads and whatnot, and in the bushes and whatnot. Somebody just come and have mercy on us because we don't know how to have mercy on ourselves. Okay? And maybe that's just what it has to come to.
Yes, sir.
Because, I'll say this, we can't say President Obama or anything like that if people who go in who are efficient and straighten stuff out real quick. Who are the most efficient people in the world when it comes to that? They are the white supremacists, either directly or indirectly. And if they come in and say, that's enough of that nonsense among you black people because you're disturbing our peace, or whatever reason they use for coming in, and when they come in with force, then what happens then? Then black people get mad at that and start saying, wait a minute, you shot one or two of us when we didn't give us a chance to shoot each other. Now we're going to get mad at you, and black lives suddenly matter. Wow. So we don't make sense, all right? And the white supremacists have programmed us from very young people right out of the crib to do everything that makes no sense at all.
Wow.
Because they know what the result is going to be.
They know.
They know what we're going to do before we know ourselves.
Okay.
Because they trained us.
All right.
That's what makes it so evil, this system called white supremacy.
Okay, let's go to the phone lines. Line number 2. What is your question for Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., according to the compensatory code?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. It's always a pleasure to hear and talk to you and Mr. Fuller. Karl Marx said, history is a series of conflict between classes. Karl Marx never used race in his teaching and philosophy. Mao Zedong said, the question is, which will win out, socialism or capitalism? Mao Zedong never used race. And we can recall white folks was fighting and killing each other before they came up on people with a darker hue. The Vikings went and conquered people looked just like them, took their women, their children, their animals. They did the same thing to them, and there wasn't no black people around. And in Persia, what they call Russia now, in the 1800s, the citizen was not allowed to participate in public affairs. Yet those citizens looked just like the people who in power. They was not dark. And these Scandinavian countries, They don't participate in this racial stuff. So my point is, evil and conquerors, they are using race as a tool for what they have always done. And that's why people like Dr. King and Malcolm X, Black Panthers, who appeal to people humanity, they are the greatest threat to this racial insanity. These people, they don't care nothing about no race. What they care about is conquering and taking from people. And I want to ask Mr. Fuller, okay, I'm going to close. I'm going to ask Mr. Fuller, is racism a tool that's designed to sanitize colonialism, gangsterism, imperialism?
All righty. Mr. Fuller?
Well, I have written a book saying, if you don't understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will confuse you. In other words, I'm not refuting what the gentleman just said. That comes under VGQ.
Yes, sir.
Everybody should think about what he just said and evaluate it for what they think is worth. But I'm saying racism is just another form of mistreatment. People have always found ways to mistreat other people in order to take advantage of someone they perceived as being eligible for being mistreated.
Yes, sir.
So that's nothing new. But racism today, in the form of white supremacy, is the most powerful political and religious idea ever produced in the minds of the people of this planet.
Okay.
And I say that since it is the most powerful, and that is the one we're dealing with now, that's the one to address.
Okay. VGQ, my brother. Let's go to line number 3. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question according to the compensatory code?
Good morning. I would like to know, why are black people nationwide taught to apologize for what's taking place in Chicago? I want to give my condolences to all the victims, but why are black people who have never been to Chicago made to feel as if we are responsible for Chicago when many of us have never been to Chicago?
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
I don't know who's saying this. I mean, no one has accused me, I don't think. I'm not aware of it, of being to blame for what's going on. I do know what I have written in my book. And the book says this: anything that happens to non-white people anywhere on this planet during the existence of white supremacy is the fault of the white supremacists. That's a flat statement. Anything that happens to any person of color anywhere on the planet, not just in Chicago, that should not happen, the white supremacists are the usual suspects, automatically, hands down. It's always them. If you want to assess the blame, the codified response, like I have in the book, is this: many people is a four parts to it, and it's in the textbook for victims of white supremacy. Many people have been harmed who should not be harmed.
Okay.
That's point one.
Mm-hmm.
Point two, many people are to blame. Point three, the people who are most to blame are hiding in plain sight.
Mm-hmm. And number
four, the people who are most to blame are all white supremacists. Now, that's a cliche, you might say, or a codified expression that you can apply to every situation that goes on anywhere on the planet, any time of day or night.
So no,
those 4 points.
So no apology.
And you'll be right on point.
So no apology necessary in this case.
No, you just simply saying what's happening and why.
All righty.
Yeah, it's all the white supremacists' fault. Mm-hmm. Every time.
All right.
Why? Because they're in charge of everything. Yeah. That's why.
Okay. Thank you for your call, my brother. Thank you so much. Okay, who's next, Ed? Line number 1. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question according to the compensatory code?
Hey, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. Mr. Bobby, I sent you an email last night, and I wanted to know if you addressed those questions on air.
I have to put it in the question rotation, and when it comes up, then I'll have Mr. Fuller address it.
Okay, well, that's fine. I can ask the question now if that's okay.
Okay, well, go ahead, since you're on.
Okay. Okay, so it's two questions. My first question is, given the fact that Obama is the president of the United States, but he appears to me to be a victim of racism, would it be logical to conclude that Obama is, at least in some part, to blame for the condition of black people at this current time, or at least in part to blame for the killings of black people by suspected race soldiers who have not been, properly addressed?
Mr. Fuller?
Well, if I understand the question, I guess, is President Obama to blame for anything that's happening to any black person anywhere, that anything that's happening to a black person that shouldn't happen. Is that the question, basically?
Yes.
Well, the answer is no. I just finished saying the white supremacists are always to blame. President Obama is not in charge of anything, including President Obama. President Obama cannot decide his own fate. He doesn't decide anything. He asks people, just like I do. What people? The people who have the power to make things happen or keep things from happening. And they are all white supremacists. Nobody else. There's nobody else that has that kind of power.
Period.
None. Zero. There's no such thing as a powerful black person anywhere on this planet. Not under the system of white supremacy. That's impossible.
Okay.
Any black person who says, I'm powerful, put them up against the white supremacists and see how long that lasts.
Wow. Yeah.
Like about 5 seconds, I would give it.
Or less.
What's
your second question, caller?
I'll say my second question. I'm really fast here, but just to kind of, bring a note to what he just said. At the same time, I still feel that Obama has a choice to make if he chooses to be president, knowing that he does not have power, if that makes any sense. But my second question here is it possible for a victim of racism to rape and or sexually assault a non-victim of racism under the system of white supremacy?
Excuse me, did you say rape?
Rape.
Okay,
rape,
okay.
And or sexually assault a non-victim of racism under the system of white supremacy. Because recently I've heard some news about a rather famous victim of racism who allegedly raped a non-victim of racism on a college campus back in 1999, and now he is being accused of rape. So I just wanted to know if this was at all possible under the current system of white supremacy.
Mr. Fuller?
The answer to the second question is yes. Not only possible, it happens all the time. In other words, that is something that shouldn't be done by anybody, anywhere.
Anytime.
Yes. It's not only possible, but it happens frequently, and it shouldn't happen. You shouldn't do anything like that. You don't even steal from people who have stolen from you. That's one of the 10 stops.
Wow.
The white supremacists have stolen the entire planet from the non-white people of the planet. I mean, they stole the non-white people and moved them from place to place.
Yes, sir.
And wrote books about it and bragged about it and fought among themselves about it. They don't hide that. They are very blatant about that. I mean, rob people. And then nowadays, if a black person steals a piece of candy off of a shelf and whatnot, he's subject to get killed.
Yeah.
For doing it.
Yeah.
Gunned down in the street. All right? But the white supremacists stole whole continents, and not only stole it, made museums about it, put it in the history books, and said, you will learn what I did to you, or you won't be able to get a job. You won't be able to graduate from the school that I put you in.
Wow.
And when I put you in this school, you will learn what I did to you and your ancestors. You will learn all about that.
Yes.
And I want you to make straight A's in it. And that way you will get a decent job. But if you don't learn that, you won't be able to do anything but be a beg on the street, and then I'm going to punish you for doing that.
Yeah, I'm way late for a break, but TalkTameItRadio.com, we go where you go. Download the TalkTameItRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. We've been on topic today, black male-female interaction. And if you have a question about that or a comment or even off topic, you may do so by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Let's go to the phone lines. Line number 2, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question according to the compensatory code?
Well, I thank you, first of all, for everything, Mr. Fuller. I have a comment. I was listening some months ago, and there was just a youngin', that's what they call them, the young youth, and he was talking, and he said that he had seen some white hands sticking out of a dark car shooting. And so I'm just saying that while we're talking about 500 people being killed, I don't even know if anybody's trying to figure out very seriously who is really doing this killing. And this is very concerning to me because I kept looking, to see, will I hear this again? Will I see it again? And I never saw that, young guy just say that again. And so that raised up an alarm for me. So I just wanted to put that on the air, that it may not be just black on black.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Fuller, you care to respond to that?
Well, I'll just go back to what I said. That's what I mean by codification. It's difficult to find out in a confusing world, which the white supremacists always cause confusion among their victims. Otherwise, their victims will not remain victims. People who are not confused cannot be enslaved for very long. And that's, confusion is the enemy of a person's liberty or freedom or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
Or getting justice.
Okay.
A confused person is most likely not going to get justice.
All right.
So the white supremacists might do things in such a way that is always mysterious, and they are the masters of mystery. That's why they believe in printing millions and millions and millions of what? Mystery books. Murder mysteries in particular.
Yeah.
See, so you can kill people, and they call them what? Who done it?
Who done it?
Try to find out who done it, because I have made it so obscure. I have hidden who done it. You try to figure out who done it, because I'm so good at doing it. You can't tell that I did it. Or did I do it? Or what did it? It might have been the tooth fairy. Who knows? So therefore, the code says anything that happens to non-white people during the existence of the system of white supremacy that should not happen, the white supremacists are the usual suspects.
Okay.
You automatically say that.
Okay. Let's go to the Gmails. Mrs. Taylor wrote, Mr. Fuller, hello, could you give examples in a simple form that racism, white supremacy exists? Thank you.
In every area of activity. An example is everything around you. Ask yourself, what is it that you're looking at that the white supremacists do not have control over? Just pick anything. A tree, a street, a fire hydrant, a ship in the harbor, the oceans. Can you cross that ocean without getting permission from the white supremacists? That's an example.
Okay.
You're looking at an ocean, a whole ocean. You're standing right there looking at it. You think that you can get on a boat? First of all, you got to get on a boat. You can't walk the water unless you have some special charms or something.
Come on.
All right? But if you get on a boat and you say, I'm going to go from one place to another, this place where I am, across this ocean to another place, you're going to have to ask permission.
Okay.
And ask permission from whom? It's always the white supremacists. If you're a person of color, you don't move from one place to another without their permission.
All right.
You don't eat a meal. You're talking about examples. Your entire existence. You want an education, you better find out which way the white supremacists went.
Okay.
Because any education that's worth a diploma on your wall, you are going to get it from them.
From them. Let me get this last Gmail in for today. This is from Sean in Houston. He says, Mr. Fuller, according to the code, if blacks should avoid sexual contact with whites, should we also avoid being associates, friends, roommates with them as well? And I am not talking about working with them in the workplace. Thanks for answering.
Oh, no, it's just the sexual intercourse. That's all you. You have to be around white people. It's their world. You know, it's their world, the white supremacists, rather. You have to be around them. If you're going to get anything worth anything, you got to get it from them. So this thing about, well, I'm going to have my own, we're going to have our own street, our own section or whatnot, you got to get permission to have that. Permission from whom? From the white supremacists. That's what I mean by not understanding the world that we're in. We don't even understand the world that we're in, even when we think we do. Every move that you make, you have to make it with the permission of the white supremacists, either directly or indirectly. Mm-hmm. And that includes all the millions of black people on this planet who have never even seen a white person. Not to say anything about a white supremacist. They have never laid eyes on a white person because they are in remote villages or something like that.
Yes.
But they are absolutely dependent
on
the mercy of the white supremacists.
Let me squeeze this one in. This is from Brother Fred. He says, Mr. Fuller, the Philippines' new president is speaking out against the killing of blacks here and kids in Syria and elsewhere. Athletes are dissing the anthem for this reason and getting those shot by cops and God only knows. May care less about getting shot. I think the alternative media is causing people to get rid of racism, white supremacy, especially the youth. What's your take on these current events? I always know you stay on top of the 3 F's, but what if a person doesn't care anymore? Racism, white supremacy is an insane system after all.
Well, I don't understand the question. Basically, what's the essence of the question?
Okay. Brother Fred, could you possibly write it again, or maybe I didn't read it right? And one last line number 1. You're on very quickly. Yeah, you're on very quickly. Only got a minute. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, do you think that the United Nations play a part or a supreme part in white supremacy's control over the globe in terms of all 9 areas of activity?
Not but one nation on the planet, and that's the nation of white supremacists. They are the only nation. They are the only government. There's no such thing as the United Nations, because there's no such thing as nations on a planet governed by people who practice white supremacy. Now, not all white people practice white supremacy, but those who do, do. And they are the most powerful, and smartest people on the planet, and they have proven that. And everybody hops to their tune who have color in their skin. So there are no so-called nations, really. There are no nations. There are so-called nations. Yes, there are all kinds of nations and tribes and all like that. That means nothing to the white supremacists. They are the ones who determine what's going to happen to people on this planet.
Yes, sir.
Every minute of every day.
All righty. Well, thank you for your call, callers. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, and radio the way it should be heard. We thank you for all of your calls, especially in that last hour. You really came through. You're really doing a good job. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, and radio the way it should be heard.